I don't know. I feel like we don't have much to say anymore because
I've
everything's said off camera.
I have friends, host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People, and today I was made very angry by a story that Grace told me as we were talking about debate. So, a little backstory here. Grace is somebody who might be interested in doing some debate competition stuff in the upcoming school year. So, we were talking about that possibility. At the end of the conversation, she mentioned having gone to her guidance counselor and the experience she had there. And what was striking about it, and of interest, I think, to us in the typology community, is that this guidance counselor gave Grace what everybody around Talking with Famous People would clearly identify as an extroverted intuition polar test. The guidance counselor said, can you think of how many uses can you think of for what was a piece of wood or something?
10 by 40 plank of wood, something like that. Yeah. And I
Okay.
could come up with one solution, one or two.
So the thing is, Grace was required to go to this meeting with the guidance counselor to discuss what kind of jobs she'd be good at. So, what did the counselor inform you? How did the counselor's opinion about your job change based on your expert intuition test? Or what? How did it impact what she said about your jobs and stuff?
Well, she just said I was autistic outright. The conversation steered off of like potential job outlooks and onto my more pressing issue, which is my mental retardation.
Did she call it that?
What?
Did she actually
No,
use
I'm
that?
just phrasing it like that, but
Okay,
uh,
so yeah, well, the more pressing issue is that you're
use flowery.
autistic, right? Well, you don't need to worry about getting a job, sweetie. You're autistic. So what? You're gonna live in a
Yeah,
special home the rest of your
you
life?
need to go to a correctional institution right away.
Hey, Boba Fett, what time are we? What time did you want? What's interesting is I thought I was confirming you for 5:30, but I was actually confirming Grace for 5:30. So I don't know what time you want. Uh, what time you wanted? I confirmed Grace's text for 5:30, thinking it was you. In fact, when she showed up to talk to me, I was like, "Oh, I double booked this. Boba Fett's going to be here any second now." And then I realized, no, I had just confirmed her time. So I don't know what time you want, or if you still want today, or whatever. We can do it after this conversation here, if you'd like. So anyway, Grace, let's get back to the conversation at hand, which is you were told you were
Can I see
autistic. What's that?
can I see the live chat? You haven't sent the link to the chat room yet.
Oh, sure. Let me do this. Okay, so the
Oh yeah, to clarify, guys, I'm an ISTP. If any of you don't know.
um, just I don't know what the link is exactly. I not normally, I don't normally ever go to this like from this place, so to speak. Okay, so here's the copy link address, and here you go. Chat, Piao, Piao, and send. There you go. Okay. Um, so your
Um,
your guidance counselor informs you that you're autistic and you need to get that dealt with. You need to go get diagnosed as such. Because then what's going to happen if you get diagnosed as such? What's the benefit of that diagnosis, presumably?
oh, she didn't really explain. She just said I needed to get a diagnosis right away. And things will work out for me at the end.
Okay. So this is this really is the sort of thing that chaps my hide in general because what I hear from Grace and everything she's described about this experience to me conveys to me clearly that this is an ENFP guidance counselor. A high school guidance counselor is an ENFP who's
Alleged ENFP.
who's said I I have a self concept of myself as an ENFP as a smart person, but I don't have any logic, which I call black and white thinking, a term that the guidance counselor used in talking with Grace. And so I think that intelligence is therefore extroverted intuition. And since Grace doesn't display robust relationship with extroverted intuition, she must not be intelligent, is basically what this ENFP guidance counselor has decided. And even worse than that, she's pathologized Grace by saying you're autistic and there's something wrong with you. And that your
She never
top priority
said
is no,
autism.
most importantly, note this: your top priority is no longer what you're supposed to be here for, talking about what kind of job you'd be good at, but now your top priority is talking about what's wrong with you. How you
Yeah.
have to accept what's wrong with you before we can even address the question of what job you might want to be good at. You know, it's
Mhm.
fucking horrific nightmare of ontological imperialism. And it's like this is the same shit that Jeffrey went through with his ENFP English teacher and her arbitrary and you know goal shifting demands that people engage with the world via her cognitive function stack, namely NEFI, not NETI, right? The thing is, look what happens with the world the way it is, with people not understanding cognitive functions. You've got an ENFP guidance counselor who, keep in mind, is a high school guidance counselor. So, of course, if Grace really does have autism, okay, the guidance counselor can't even diagnose it. She can just say, you should go talk to somebody who can diagnose it.
Yeah,
It,
which was what she suggested, very politely, too.
I mean, the thing is, why? Okay, so the point of this meeting was supposedly to get guidance about your job's future, right? And
Yeah,
you were required to go to this meeting. You didn't choose to consult the guidance counselor. Is that correct?
exactly. Uh-huh.
Okay, so, and this guidance counselor's choice of how to use this time that you are compelled to give her is to ignore the question at hand, what kind of job you'd be well suited for, and instead say, there's something so wrong with you that we can't even talk about the central question here. And this woman is a guidance counselor.
Yeah, so she's worked with multiple high school students about like what jobs they need to, what jobs they're most well suited for based on their current grades and stuff. Like, like we did discuss like how I could like better fluff up my resume. Like, but beyond that, she thinks I'm just like not intellectually suited for the jobs out there right now.
Grace, just out of curiosity, what's your GPA?
It's a 4.0, like for fuck's sake, and 4.8 on weighted. Yeah, weighted.
Definitely
Your
belong
thought is
in special ed.
what?
Definitely. You definitely belong in special ed. I mean, the thing is, it's insane that we've got this kind of garbage in the school systems, but it's inevitable when you have a centrally run product that is people are compelled to purchase, so to speak. In other words, they have to send their children to school. So no matter what they end up getting as their product, whether it's public school or private school or whatever, it's going to have to be structured as a day school, or it won't count as meeting the requirement, right? So in other words, to get your kid educated well, to hire good teachers to teach their expertise, like getting me to coach debate or getting some person who really is a good science teacher to teach science or something, because of a specific reason you want the student to learn a certain amount of curricular material or whatever. That's a good way to educate because it's driven by the specific needs of a given situation. Ideally, all those things would be zero sum. It would be like debate competitions and shit, so science competitions, so that the actual skill of the teacher is rewarded rather than ignored. But in the status quo, the actual quality or value is so divorced from from like professional success that shit like this happens. You've got a guidance counselor who's going around basically not because she's evil, but because she doesn't know anything and projects her own dumb frame of reference onto everybody, going around and basically taking an ontological bastard sword and slashing at the skin of all the individual students who don't validate as powerful on the metrics that she validates as powerful on. It's fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I'm like not personally offended by it though, because like, she was right about me not being able to process stuff in real time really quick, and maybe like potentially having attention deficit disorder. What's it called?
oh, so now you're not just autistic,
Yeah.
but you're ADHD too, because you can't process things in real time. What she was
And
really
also like
noting,
I kept like nervously cracking my fingers too, because like when she was interrogating me, but like that's just out of habit. It's not something that I do like routinely on my own time. It's only when I'm in a stressful situation I start cracking my fingers. But like she's like, "Aha, you eat AHE too."
I mean,
So like that's why you couldn't recall anything that I was telling you. I'm like, no, like
okay,
it's just everything you told me is not worth remembering, lady. Like, I'm sorry.
as far as the processing thing, here's a reality for all ISTPs. When you ask an ISTP a question, FE requires them to respond sooner than they want to. In other words, anytime you ask an ISTP a question that they're not expecting, I guess, they want to pause for a second and think about it before delivering an answer. They're deliberative. They're not action types. So that doesn't mean you're slow at processing. It means you're choosing to process. Unlike her, right? So if she says, how many uses are there for a piece of wood? And she can come up with 10. So she's processing quickly? No, she's generating information randomly from various, based off of deviation from certain things. And that's not the same as processing anything. When she thinks it's very easy to process very quickly, that's because when you're actually processing things, she calls that black and white thinking. In other words, it doesn't count as meaningful activity for her. It's when people are using the wrong kind of deliberation. In other words, they're TIing. It's just black and white thinking. That doesn't count for her as processing things. That counts for her as, again, a problem of you not being like her. So, this is absolutely fucking appalling. And anybody who understands cognitive functions is both appalled and saddened because you acknowledge this woman does not intend to harm Grace.
Yeah,
She probably went
she's wrong.
home and was like, "Oh, I felt so bad for this poor girl today. There was something so wrong with her. She didn't have any extrovert intuition, except the teacher. This lady doesn't know what that is. So she just thinks there's something wrong with Grace. Because, of course, FI tool, the ENFP knows, well, I know I'm a smart, wonderful lady. So things that are very different from me aren't smart or wonderful. Yeah!
Mm.
Yeah!
Yeah.
I just ruined a bunch of people's lives. Fuck it. Fuck you, ENFPs. Stay out of everything, as far as I can tell, right?
Not bullying her like this.
I used to say stay out of politics, but don't go into guidance counseling either. Um, stay out of
Well,
things where
wasn't to the school. Like, what if I get her suitors on?
if you get tutors, I'm just saying ENFPs. Okay, I'm talking to ENFPs now. I'm saying ENFPs stay out of places where you think your words are advising people or correct about things. Just stay out of everything that matters, basically. Because if you're going to do this kind of shit, you're doing way more damage then can be just sort of excused by your ignorance, you know?
I mean, I guess it could be excused.
It is constantly by everybody, right? In fact, it's not only excused, it's required. You are required to go talk to this stupid woman.
She has a degree in psychology. I mean, I guess her diagnosis of autism that was placed on me was didn't come out of her ass. Like she thought I was stemming, whatever that means. Like
I mean,
that
it
was correct.
definitely came out of her ass in the sense that she recognized that something called stemming exists that links to autism. She recognized that you are not ideationally like her, and she
I can't
recognized
read
that you are
black.
using black and white thinking, and she chose then to assign whatever pathology she could simply because you deviate from her standard of acceptable. Now, that's not because psychology is right about any of those things either necessarily. So, for example, autism is a real thing, but autism actually goes along with actual mental retardation. And if you don't have any such mental retardation, as you clearly don't, Miss 4.0, the thing is, it's not a problem, it's just a cognitive configuration thing. So, it's an affect thing, not a pathology. And for her to pathologize you, to choose to view it through that frame of reference, it just shows that she is not interested in helping you. She's interested in judging you.
Okay, and how should I take that?
Don't
Because I'm going.
don't internalize anything she says. Next
I
time you
really
go
don't
meet
know
with
what to
her,
say to her.
next time you meet with her, you throw out a TI test. Who?
No,
Yeah, you do.
that's
You
me.
say, can you tell me who my mother's sister's only sister is in relation to me?
I should ask her that.
Yeah.
And
And then when she
well,
when she can't answer, you go, "Ooh, looks like you got a learning disability."
well,
You can't get that. What's wrong with you? You clearly have a learning disability. Can you answer this? If
I'm
if
going to get
if
suspended if I
if
do that.
only dogs eat cheese, and I eat cheese, am I necessarily a dog? What only is very. Oh, you can't even answer that. You definitely have a learning disability, retard. That's what you tell her. You get suspended. You'd be the hero of the world. So what? You get suspended. Fuck. I mean, who fucking cares? You get suspended. You'd be the world's biggest hero.
Well, then I won't get into college.
No, you would get into college. Then you don't have to worry about your stupid make believe extracurricular activities. You can actually have something real to point to. You say, I destroyed the ontological violence that my guidance counselor was perpetrating on everybody. I did something useful.
I don't know if she perpetrated it on everybody else, but that was just personal experience. Like my other friends think she's a pleasant lady.
Has there been any person that you've spoken to who said, boy, thank God this school has employed that guidance counselor. I was about to make the wrong decision.
No, but
Before her great guidance saved me.
no. I
Yeah,
mean,
has anybody ever said that about a guidance counselor ever? No.
yeah, no.
Guidance counselors are a make believe job that the school systems, because they're all so detached from actual efficacy, have to have because I don't know why.
What advocacy?
I'm just saying, who knows why? Why it's just like, why are there guidance counselors? Well, because that's what is the standard and expected. Why do you have to go talk to your guidance counselor? Well, because you're
They
supposed to get
should
some.
employ actual therapists, not counselors.
You should have some advice about your career or something. Well, if you're going to ask advice about your career,
Well,
why wouldn't you
students, so
ask
I don't think
somebody who knows you?
her advice can't be total bullshit, right? Because like her observation that I couldn't process stuff in real time
That's not
is actually
correct. It's factually false. You are processing everything I'm saying just fine. When I ask you a question, you may pause before you answer it, but you understand what I'm asking and answer on point, which I'm sure is a lot better than she fucking does.
you know like I don't know. And like her point about me having too black and white thinking, not being able to read between lines.
Uh-huh.
And
Right. That's Fi Tool. She is she refuses to acknowledge that her her thing that she uses as a tool function is both a strength in its appropriate arena and a deficit when it's not in its appropriate arena. That's the problem, right? ENFPs don't recognize when their deficit is fucking shit up. Yeah, if you get suspended, it would be a huge victory because then you can make a big stink. It would make the news, all kinds of stuff. And then you get into college for sure. Colleges want you know colleges like iconoclasts. If you're successful enough to get noticed like that, that sells a college on you. Just like if you were to actually win a national championship in debate or something, you wouldn't need to have any kind of grades or whatever because colleges recognize that somebody who wins a national championship in debate or a state championship or whatever, that they're smarter than the rest of the students in the pool. They just colleges get what matters. They know about debate. They know that serious debaters are always the smartest students in every freshman class, the most knowledgeable, the most intellectually rigorous.
but I don't know. Like I don't feel a need to confront her again about this. Like
Okay.
just
Well, listen. If she
continue
pisses
to
you
move
off
on.
again, you can always just email her a link to this video.
Oh, didn't you call her a cunt at some point though?
That was off camera, Grace.
Oh,
You're the one who just called her that.
no, I'm saying that you called her that. I
That
didn't
was
call
off
her.
camera, Grace, okay? I didn't say that in this live stream. That was when you and I were just talking person to person, okay? Yes, I may
Yeah, but
think
carry
that.
on.
Yes, I
I
may
just
think that. And I may have ample good reason to think that. But I am not formally making that claim here on the live stream.
okay. So don't have any video evidence of you calling her a cunt. So
I mean,
let's
I don't disavow it. I'm just saying my video here itself can't be held as objectionable or an instance of bullying because I didn't call her that.
okay, and watch her misconstrue what you just said.
Swift Eagle says, "Hey Eric, just pose as her family psychologist and call very concerned." And, the thing is, students never let me advocate for them, but I have had the glorious experience of getting to play that role with Rachel and her horrible mental health facility that she was subjected to in fucking New York. I got to call them, and I could only hear them, but I also got to enjoy Rachel's description of them scrambling. Boy, were they scrambling! I love busting chops to people like that. You're right,
So
Horse Mumbler. Let me correct myself, Grace. You didn't call her that, Grace. Okay, you referenced me calling her that prior to the video starting. You are good job correcting me on this, Horse Mumbler. I appreciate it, and thank you for pointing that out. I was playing fast and loose with the fun time rhetoric, but I need to formally acknowledge that was just a joke. Grace, you did not call her that, okay? ENFP ISTP will always be a conflicting pair. It just sucks when they are an authority figure and don't have the tools to attempt understanding of others' minds. Well, see, this is one area where I think if we did have cognitive functions sort of taught as the primary frame in psychology, we would have fewer of these problems. Because at least the ENFP would have available to her a, a map that would allow others to sort of hold her accountable. I really don't think this woman is ill-intentioned at all. I'm sure she's a nice lady. I'm sure she would firmly assert and believe in full that she's helping students, even though she's not, even though she's hurting them. So it's hard to say she's a bad person.
for instance, maybe she's helped a ton of students go to the
How?
right
With
course.
what?
Huh?
With what?
What? And need FI advice.
You mean like which boy should I go to the prom with or something?
Maybe I don't know. Like nobody actually hates
I,
her.
I guarantee you nobody actually willfully goes to her for advice about anything except maybe like I need to get an extension on college admission for this university or something. But I don't even think guidance counselors really do any of that shit anymore. So it's like nobody chooses to go ask a guidance counselor for guidance, right? Do you know anybody who's ever gone and said, "Ooh, I need some advice, so I'm going to go to the guidance counselor"?
Nobody's confided that to me before, but if somebody were to have went to guidance counselor for advice on their mental health issues, I don't think they'd tell everybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
Be on the show.
Right, but
Like
look,
he's helped a lot of people. I don't know, but in this instance, I was just being ontologically attacked.
yeah, you
Yeah,
were. And
I feel like shit.
the thing is, it was required of you. It made you feel like shit. You said, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't really realize that in the moment because my FI is really terrible. But like now, reflecting on it, reminiscing about what happened, uh, it really hit home. Like the stuff, like her points about me not being intelligent, or the things that I already like ruminated about over and over again, and to bring those insecurities out on the table again, it just wasn't very pleasant to deal with. You could say.
In other words, you've already been subjected to enough frame projection by people that you've started to internalize the shit and be insecure about it. And then she's just doubling down on that shit. Well, I would encourage you to try to resist internalizing any of it, especially the shit that she's telling you. But but yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like people, adolescents especially, are somewhat fragile in their identity and their ego and stuff, and trying to determine what's appropriate to believe about themselves. How much confidence should Grace have in herself is a question she's answering right
Even
now. You know,
when my response to your question earlier wasn't adequate, and like even now, I'm like thinking about it.
which question did I ask? What was your response? Which question did I ask such that your response was not adequate?
Like how I felt when she was interrogating me. I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't concise enough. See,
Okay,
I care
so
about my intelligence. And
look, she's trying to say that you have a processing issue, right?
uh-huh.
But
And
what are the things you're just referencing right now? Is an example of. There's an example of you processing information. So what she's really saying is
I think I
you're
gave you a roundabout answer, right? Because I don't know. I think I said two conflicting things. Whatever.
okay. So the thing is you're processing your previous answer and double checking it for TI consistency and stuff. That's not an indication that you're not processing information. It's an indication that you are processing information that she doesn't consider worth anything, namely TI distinctions.
Okay.
So it's like to say that you there are varying crimes here that she committed, metaphorical crimes, not real crimes. Just sort of there are very several levels of misdeed. On the one hand, sort of conflating your Ne PoLR with a broader thing than it really is kind of understandable given her lack of understanding. On the other hand, to say you have a processing issue is very much less justified by anything that she had to see. In other words, that's really TI polar projection there because anybody who understands processing as a word that means something would not accuse you of having a processing issue.
Yeah, and my responses to her questions were kind of wishy-washy too. It's not what she wanted to hear, I guess.
Well, it sounds to me like she's got way too much confidence, right? So, as I was saying, adolescents tend to be part of their adolescence is coming to the decision about how much confidence they should have in themselves. Are they somebody who's successful enough, consistent enough in attaining sort of point toable results that they can trust themselves to carry themselves as though that were the case? And the shit that happens in adolescence, especially if you're SI front stack, but even for SI6, I'm sure, it cascades into your being, into your adulthood, more so than it it should, based just purely on the amount of time and weight independently, right? So the thing is, it's like super annoying and unfortunate that the people who are most vulnerable to ontological assault, children and adolescents, are the only population of people that we force to go to an environment where they're subject to an assortment of different frame impositions by people, and have no control over whether they're what they're learning, who they're learning with, who they're learning from, etc., or their experience at all. Have no choice about how much time to spend on a given task before changing. It's like it's an absolute nightmare.
I don't know. It bothers me because like I couldn't dispute any of her claims because like I didn't really know what she was arguing for in the first place. So like I just like kind of went along with her assertions piling up as in as the conversation continued. And I just couldn't defend myself. So I guess that makes me look stupid, which just further proves her point, both objectively and through her own lens.
Well, she was pushing on your polar. She was saying
Well, not that. It's just like, do you have anything to say for yourself? Like, do you agree with my claims that you're mentally retarded? I'm
that's
like,
pushing on your polar. I want you to answer now. Is pushing on your polar. Well, come on, answer me. Well, that's pushing on your polar because they're saying produce words now rather than think through it all the way, right? And Horse Mumbler says here, I'm a TI Dom. Horse Mumbler is one of the smartest people I've ever met. So I'm a TI Dom who can constantly score 150 on a TI test, and I'm already convinced that Grace is almost certainly the most intelligent young lady I've encountered this year. I agree. I mean, the thing is, what the thing about processing is you behave like a deliberative person, which is in the typing session of you. You kept asking me more and more questions. You want clarification. You want things to make sense. This woman wants.
and when I kept asking for her for clarifications, like she misconstrued that as me like not remembering what she just said. So, and she correlated that with my ADHD and stemming stuff.
Well, the thing is okay. So like supervisor types typically, like ENTP. I try not to push on ISTP polar. When I work with Chloe, sometimes circumstances like the kind of work we're doing wants wants the student to produce expert intuition, and I'll get a little frustrated or something. But I think that the the other type that has the dominant function, that's the polar. So in other words, ENFP to ISFP, the conflictor type, they're the ones who are going to who be really rather abusive towards the what for me is a supervisee, because I can I can recognize the common ground on TI, right? But the ENFP is inherently antagonistic to somebody using that deliberative function to accomplish anything in life. In other words, it should be only enjoyed as an absolute value in some weird way. So they're inherently antagonistic towards that. When they see it in somebody, they immediately go, "Uh oh, this is one of those people who's going to start to try to pin me down with their black and white thinking." Fortunately, I have this term, black and white thinking, as a universal answer to all logic questions. It's frustrating, but so that's the type that's going to be abusive. So it's like for me, it wouldn't be INFP was abusive to me. It would be ISFP who was abusive to me, in regards that they'd both be hitting my 7 and my 8.
In your 8. Yeah, I just don't really know what to say to her when I see her again.
It's because you're vulnerable to critique in your 7th, and you're insecure when facing critique about your 8th. So when facing critique about your 7th, you just or when facing an attack under your 7th, you'll just kind of experience it and try to deal with it in ways that won't work. And if you face critique on your 8th, you get prickly and sensitive about it. So in other words, if you face critique on FI grounds, you get prickly and sensitive. What you encountered here was a woman who's trying to tell you that your your the way you use FI means you don't validate on TI
I mean, not
grounds. She's trying to say that basically you don't validate on TI grounds because you don't validate on her FI grounds, and you're just like what? Because it's clear which is a smart person in this conversation between you and the guidance counselor. You're thinking about what she's saying and whether it means things, and asking questions and stuff, and she's just spewing her ideas and saying that you critiquing them or thinking about them hard is another indication of another problem. I mean, it's appalling.
yeah. Okay, but I'm not offended as I should be. Maybe partially because I still think he's kind of right, but
You
um,
still think she's kind of right. Part of the reason
I
why.
never. Whatever. Uh,
Look, the thing is, you're not as hurt as you would be because you know about cognitive functions. If you didn't know about cognitive functions, it would be a much more painful experience because you would have more reason to internalize it and less reason to fight it.
yeah, which is why I came to you.
I am too. I'm glad we were able to talk about it on a live stream. I was gonna make a video about it by myself, and then Grace was like, "Well, why are you excluding me from the conversation?" I was like, "Oh, wait, you want to talk about it on video too? Okay, fine." I'm just used to most people like not being more camera avoidant than that. So
I mean, well, I'm aware that only half my face is displayed on here. But, uh, do you guys want to see
that
all of my face?
I
Is
would
that
say,
what you want to
Grace,
see?
that you just showed some good extroverted intuition there. You thought it's possible that I'm going to hear what I heard last time when I only had half my face on the camera. So I'm gonna note that I'm aware of that now to avoid any FE critique on this matter, and can put the ball in their FE court and say, if you'd like to see my full face, please indicate so. Of course, people would prefer to see your full face, but I don't think anybody's gonna say, "Hey, can you show us your full face?"
Yeah,
Polar function is like where you try to avoid a double bind the most. And for instance, in Grace's situation, being any polar, she can't win with her counselor by being quick and spontaneous because she was told to be quick and not pensive in her delivery. Right. Be quick and spontaneous. The first thing you're going to do about that is think about what that instruction means. So it's counter to your nature.
yeah. Definitely, I couldn't keep up with her in conversation. That's probably the main reason why she thought I was autistic, I guess.
You couldn't keep up with her conversation. You could keep up with
Yeah,
it
I couldn't.
fine. You could keep up with it fine, right? I mean, in what way weren't you not keeping up
And
with
her
it?
answers are really short too. This is not what she wanted to hear. I don't know, like when she encouraged extrapolation on my part, I just couldn't do it. I just answered your question. What else you want me to say? Like now you, this is
No, but
a,
Grace, just extrovertly into it. Go ahead. Just idea. Go ahead. Just show me. Oh my God!
about
There's
what
something
exactly
terribly
though?
wrong with you. There's something terribly wrong. That's what. Yeah, I know the experience. I know her as an ENTP. I have been asked to coach an ISTP in interview skills. He was a kid who got a perfect score on the ACT. He had 4 point whatever grade point average, and he was going to try to get into Harvard, which
Well, my
does
SAT
interviews.
was horrendous. So
So the thing is, I played this game with him where I go, okay, well, can you expand on that? And it very no, and I never could teach him to expertly intuit. All I could do was give him packages of my extroverted intuition for him to SI remember. So, and that's just reality. The thing is, that woman, if that kid that I coached in, was just like you, right? She would have said the same thing to him. He got a perfect score on the ACT. 4 point whatever, and his only concern was whether he was going to get into Harvard or have to settle for Yale or something like that, right? He had rich parents in freaking Yorba Linda or something, and anyway, the thing is, your guidance counselor would have told him the same thing. Would have said, "There's something wrong with you because you can't think of any uses for a piece of wood," and she would have just ignored the fact that. But hold on a second. If I were he, I would say, I have a perfect score on the ACT, 4.7 GPA. I'm My concern is whether or not I'm going to get to Harvard, and you're telling me there's something wrong with me, and that I'm somehow have a processing issue. He was just like you, but any objective data would say obviously not a processing issue. So she's purely being subjective in her calculus, and what good is her fucking psychology degree as a consequence? It's not worth anything except it convinces people.
Validates her on TE grounds.
Yeah, just validate exactly.
Mm.
Now that's what a smart person would say, but you just said.
At
It just validates her on TE grounds, which is just another way that people are going to be more convinced of her wrongness.
least let Grace know how much she talk to her when she desires. I've been subjected to the same assault. And give my second NU maybe of help.
Okay, sure,
Oh, are you? Where's
yeah.
my?
If you could leave a comment on here, this video, or whatever you want. I don't know. Sure. There, she sees the chat. Okay. So, the thing is, this is nice to have a real case of somebody who's here on camera, so that people out there can see a human face get put to the victimization of students by people who don't know anything about cognitive functions and impose their bias onto their students they're supposed to be helping. And
Well, what use them like counter argument? Like, am I supposed to explain cognitive functions from scratch and explain that no, I'm not mentally retarded. I'm just severely deficit in this particular area of thinking, which is any.
no, you shouldn't explain it to her because she's not equipped to hear you. The writer you are, the less equipped she is to hear you. Her
Yeah.
whole
Also, like, MBTI is like technically considered pseudoscience, right?
well, sure, MBTI is,
Yeah.
and
I learned about this like when I obtained my psychology degree. Then this must be pseudoscience, and then yeah, she'll probably not listen to me anyway.
right, you've correctly analyzed the situation. The thing is, psychology in general has the wrong frame of reference. It views personality theory as a subset of psychology, but it's a whole different. Yeah, I know. I got the payment. I just need to know what the time is. So the thing is, no, she's not. She's not held hostage in a real career choice. She can just ignore this person's bad advice, and that's fine. I'm not disputing that, Boba Fett. I'm not saying that this person is the, standing between Grace and her getting into some program she wants to get into or anything like that. What I am saying is this is a problem. Well, her feels are hurt, yeah, but it's a problem because when we
Well,
start,
I think I'm over it now. It's alright.
look, her feels were hurt, okay, but that's revelatory of something, Boba Fett, which is
But I didn't realize it were hurt.
it was an injustice implicit in the interaction she had, in that she's got somebody basically telling her there's something wrong with you mentally, but the person who's telling her that is much more correctly described that way than the person who's being told that. So it's going to create a great deal of sense of like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And that's assuming you've got a strong sense of self, like a firmly determined already ego and everything. She's an adolescent who's developing her sense of self and trying to determine how much faith or confidence she should have in herself. This person is a guidance counselor who's got TE legitimacy from a BA in psychology and from her position as a guidance counselor, who's telling Grace when she goes in to ask her questions, this stuff that's an ontological an ontological assault. Now, the thing is, I agree, Boba Fett, that is the correct response. However, that's imagination land to think that people can simply determine that this person's not worth listening to and not listening to them, especially when they're in a part of their life when they're developing who they think they are. We're all subject to internalizing pathologization of us if it were to occur. Um, and the older you get and the more secure you become in who you are and actualizing stuff, you're less subject to internalizing that. But it's particularly offensive because it's a high school guidance counselor telling an adolescent that there's something wrong with them at exactly the time in their life when they're trying to decide if there's anything wrong with them.
But it's okay because she has a psychology degree and totally knows what she's talking about.
It's okay because typology is here, and there's this community of TI people who can reassure you that no, you're not crazy. You aren't the crazy one. Okay, actually, the world is that fucked up and crazy. It's not you. That's the most important thing that we can provide you is to reassure you that your TI is not crazy. It is in fact the world that's fucked up and crazy. So hopefully that's what you internalize.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to make a video about this because I thought it was important and worth talking about. But I'm going to wrap this up, which I know this is quick for a live stream. It's only 45 minutes, but I feel like I've talked about it sufficiently, and I actually don't want to go start talking about random topics now.
Oh
So
yeah, Boba. Yeah, I'm planning on ignoring her, but I can't avoid meeting her again next Monday.
okay, so
And
well
I want to be
now
fair,
all of a
but
sudden we're going to need to stay on for a little bit longer. You're meeting her again next Monday.
yeah.
What are you going to say to her?
What?
What do
I
you?
I appreciate your help, but like I'm going to just politely refuse it because I don't think there's anything wrong with me.
Um,
Which you probably won't take too kindly, right? Because
I mean, you
I
should
don't
say you
know.
should put it this way. You should go like this.
Situation.
I'm either appreciating your advice or wishing I were elsewhere, but not both. And if it's sunny today, then I'm not wishing to be elsewhere. And
God,
it's not sunny today. What can we conclude?
I mean, then
That's
that would
what, bitch.
that would be me intentionally pathologizing her. But in this case, I'm doing it with vicious intent. So like, isn't that
No,
immoral?
no, you wouldn't be pathologizing her. You'd be demonstrating to her the taste of her own medicine so that she would learn that it's not a good idea to take aspects of other people's selves and turn them into disorders. She's not going to
Alleged.
learn by having explained to her. She might learn from experience. How about, okay, you like to do that to Grace? Let me go do that to you, TI Polar. Let me go ask you a bunch of TI questions and watch you squirm and say how you hate these kind of questions and run away and say, why are you asking that? That's black and white thinking. And then let me explain to you, no, that's basic conditional logic and you have a learning disability. Let me do that to you, lady, and see how you like it. Now, I would, in that case, not be trying to convince her she has a learning disability. I'd be trying to point out, this is what you're doing, stupid.
Well, maybe I can subtly imply that throughout the conversation, but I'm not going to go out and accuse her of having a learning disability.
Okay, well, remember, it's always more fun when you shame your guidance counselor.
Wait, what? You cut off.
It's always more fun when you shame your guidance counselor.
Well, but she has power in the situation, and it,
Okay, well, you're going to do what you're going to do, Grace. I already know how ISTPs are. They don't listen to me. They don't listen to my advice at all because it doesn't apply to them because it always requires a little bit more extroverted intuition than they probably want to count on, you know? But the thing is, then do what you say. Just go in there ignore what she's saying, politely decline, and say, you could even say something like, "Oh, I've actually done some taxonomical work on cognition styles and stuff, and I think I understand what's going on here." Just leave it at that, and let her be like, why are you not respecting my authority or expertise or something? Why are you positioning yourself as like you've investigated and come to conclusions about not just yourself but about me? She wouldn't like that at all, but you couldn't really say anything about it either.
Okay, I suppose. And if I do choose to decline her, like very aggressively, then
I mean,
yeah, that probably
what's she trying to get you to? What are you declining? I mean, isn't she just suggesting you go to a doctor or
oh
something?
yeah, to not go to the doctor. But, like,
Okay.
I'm just scared that like she might reach out to my mom, like, make her get involved in this one. This when she really doesn't have to.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good reason to
But
put up a.
that's what I'm scared about.
That's a good reason to proactively defend and say, you could say, you know, I think you're conflating verbal reasoning skills with ideational skills, because my verbal reasoning skills are really good, but my ideational skills are very limited. So, like, to demonstrate the difference, let me ask you a logical question, so we can see how it's different from a creative question, okay? And then you ask her a basic TI question. And then she gets to experience what it's like to be on the end of a question she doesn't like to answer.
And what if she's not an ENFP?
Oh, she is. Trust me. She definitely is. I mean, the only other possibility she could be ESFP, but
ESFP.
it's same difference either way, right? I assume ENFP because it's like the when you described about how the guidance counselor talked so much and expected you to talk more in response, and just the fact that they're going after NE so much, it strongly suggests ENFP over ESFP. But in theory, it could be an ESFP who's gotten really fixated with NE for some reason, I guess. Regardless, they gotta be TI polar because they're rejecting your basic deliberative nature as a legitimate way of parsing information. They're saying you have a processing problem, which means they just do not get TI.
Okay, nice conclusion. I'll try to explain best I can to her, and hopefully she understands. We'll reach a mutual agreement. I don't want to offend her anyway, either, because
Because
I
why,
know
though?
her intentions are clear. I mean,
But
pure.
that's not a good reason to not offend her, right? Well intentioned people who are doing wicked things because they think their intentions are a good enough reason to justify their behavior need to be disrupted in some way. And it may mean being
I want to improve.
offending her into actually thinking about what she's doing and pulling back her feelings about how great she is for a second and actually look at the damage she's doing.
Like,
Yeah.
of course, it'd be nice if I could like prove her wrong, but like, I'd rather do it like in an effy, palatable way that wouldn't incur a lot of consequences on my part.
I mean, you won't be able to.
Because then she'll accuse me of attacking her character or something like that.
Then
I think,
don't attack her character.
and well,
I mean,
how would I phrase my argument in a way that is not suggestive of me attacking her character?
well, you
Then
simply say, "Look, I've actually studied some about this matter. I've talked with some people about this additionally, and what I've concluded is that you're conflating ideation with logic, and I can demonstrate the difference if you'd like." And then the ball's in her court. She doesn't want you to demonstrate the difference. I guarantee you that.
yeah, but then she'll be like, "Why are you questioning my expertise? Like you know nothing about psychology. Who's the one who
Well,
has a degree?"
like I said, I've consulted a number of parties about this and done a lot of independent research. And because I'm good at parsing things, I'm good at drawing my own conclusions. Would you like me to demonstrate the difference? Would you like me to
I will.
demonstrate? You don't let her get away with not answering your question. That's the thing. It's as simple as that. It's same with the debate. When you go, well, you know what? I've actually done some research and talked to a couple people about this, and what I've concluded is that you're conflating ideation for logic. I can demonstrate the difference if you'd like. Would you like me to? If she says anything other than yes or no,
No,
when she's done talking, you say, I can demonstrate the difference between ideation and logic if you'd like me to. Would you like me to? You repeat the question exactly as you worded it before. No change of intonation. If she says something other than yes or no, you wait until she's done talking. And you say, I can demonstrate the difference between logic and ideation for you if you'd like me to. Would you like me to? Don't let her ignore everything she says until she answers your question. Be polite, be steady. Just keep saying the same question until she actually answers it. When she says yes, then you ask her a TI question.
but she might scramble to get away from answering the TI question.
Sure. And you'll point out, okay, so this is the kind of question you don't enjoy answering because, like me, you also have an attentional configuration that leaves you with a deficit. What you call black and white thinking is conditional logic. It's the logic that is behind the internet and every other rational system. So,
She might outright refuse to hear me out just because cognitive functions as MBTI is
don't
inherent.
talk about its cognitive functions. Just say, look. The thing is, you've made a mistake between logic and ideation. So, ideation, which is creating new ideas, is one aspect of creativity. Much stronger linkage to intelligence or competency is TI, which you don't have to call it that, but you say which is logic. Okay, so since I'm not sure, my contention is you, lady, have conflated two things: logic and creativity. I can demonstrate the difference for you if you'd like. If she doesn't want you to demonstrate it, well, then the conversation's over. If she does, you ask her some logic questions. And then she's not able to answer them. You go, okay, well, so note that even though you struggle with these questions, there's nothing wrong with you. That's it.
Okay, it's a pretty solid argument. Or
All right. All right. So
and
look, go ahead, Grace. Any last thoughts you have? Because I want to wrap this up here because I've been talking on the internet now for too long. I'm tired of it.
if things go smoothly, maybe I'll get my point across, and she won't send me to a psychiatrist.
Okay, and remember, if worse comes to worse, and shit blows up, and she tries to contact your mom or whatever, at that point you do need to send her this link to this because she needs to be taught to understand some things. It's like if she wants to fight what I'm saying, well, I can show her plenty of evidence from typing sessions of lots of people who have strengths and weaknesses that correspond with each other in fashion A, B, or C, as you do. So, as she does, as I do. Mine's much less easy to demonstrate. Like, I can expose her polar TI. She'll have a hell of a time exposing my polar FI in a way that makes me look bad. So, in that sense, we TI people are at a huge advantage. Her TI polar makes her look worse than your NE polar makes you look bad. And that's the thing you got to get across to her, is you wouldn't like it if I were doing this to you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for being here, everybody.
To meet with the head counselor instead of her.
I mean,
I think if I request that, then yeah, things should be fine. And if the head counselor decides I don't have a problem, then her judgment overrules her judgment,
okay, but I
and
mean,
I won't be sent to the counselor, and nobody's feelings get hurt.
okay, but see, here's the thing about that is then if that's your concern, if you're concerned about is what the counselor is going to do going forward, you should say that going in. You should say, look, I I've not I've after some thought and investigation, I disagree with the advice you gave me last time, what you said last time. I want to make sure that line of conversation ends here. If you plan to go forward and discuss it with my mother or suggest that I get a doctor's appointment or something, tell me now because I plan to go over your head. Because you don't want that to happen, right? You don't want this guidance counselor to to go over your head and get your mom involved and start dragging you to doctor's appointments that you do not need and only further reinforce bullshit pathologization. And you can't let that happen. If you think that's a genuine risk, then you need to make it an explicit topic at the outset of the conversation. I am not in agreement with you about this pseudo diagnosis of yours for a variety of reasons, which I can get into if you want me to. But I don't want to argue with you about it. I just want to make sure you're not planning on going over my head and contacting my mom or otherwise advising that I go see a doctor and get diagnosed with something. And if she's willing to drop the subject, then just that's fine. You're done.
Okay.
But if she says, "Well, Grace, I have a responsibility to me," then you go, "Okay, I need to talk to the head counselor, and I need to send you a link here." And then you send her this link, and then she's welcome to come on and make her case on this channel as well. And of course, she won't ever even dream of wanting to because she knows she's wrong. Once she sees this, she'll get ENTP. ENFPs don't like ENTPs because they can't hang with us really, and you know we expose them for their wrongness all the time. So they don't like us. They're scared of us.
Well, in case that happens, can you cut out the part where I accused you of referring to her as a cunt?
No, because that's all that was
But
you
then you
you.
can get a strike for bullying, right?
No, because I didn't call her that in the video. You pointed
Well, yeah,
out.
but you also didn't deny that you didn't call her
No,
that, which
the point is, Grace, I can't get a strike for bullying somebody on YouTube for a conversation I had that wasn't on YouTube. So, yes, you're referencing a conversation that we had off of YouTube in which, yes, I said that. However, I didn't say it in this
now you
video,
openly admitted it.
but that doesn't make this video
You
an
don't.
instance of bullying. The fact that I admitted in a private conversation calling her that name is not the same thing as publicly calling her that name in a video, which could be considered as bullying. Referencing the fact that I once had a private conversation in which I called her that name is not an example of bullying, and it's not me who brought it up, it's you, so it's naturally occurring, and there's no way you can make the case for it. That's it. So
Okay.
I feel perfectly fine. I'm safe. I'm fine. And besides which, this woman needs to be sort of knocked out of her fog of certainty. There needs something. She's gonna have to feel bad before she fixes anything. It's never gonna happen otherwise. If she doesn't feel bad, then she hasn't understood yet what she's been doing. She should feel very bad about it. Once she understands, she will feel bad. But until she understands, she won't feel bad. And until she feels bad, she won't understand. So at some point, she's going to have to get knocked around a little bit by some certain truths like these. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I just don't want her to feel like I'm like out to get her, or that I'm going out to get out of my way to personally attack her character just because I don't agree of her fair and objective assessment.
I mean, it's neither fair nor objective. It's an ontological assault. You're critiquing a person who's supposed to be serving your interests, and you are the client. They are the employee, essentially. Okay, she's your employee. You are complaining about the terrible job that she did for a good cause, because even though you're an adolescent, you were wise enough to note that, hey, this is not okay what she's doing. You may not have articulated all the reasons why it's not okay, but you come to somebody who is happy to do so. I have articulated all those reasons, and regardless of what you think about typology or cognitive functions, nobody can agree with the idea that there's something wrong with you, Grace, that you're dumb in some way, or not adequately mentally competent to do professional jobs.
Well,
Nobody would agree with that.
says otherwise, though.
Say again?
Yeah, anybody can get a 4.0 if they try hard enough.
That's not true.
I mean,
That's totally not true.
yeah, it's just getting 95% or over on all classes that you take. And depending on what classes you take, it can be easy for you or really hard.
Okay, well, I mean, if you had to take a logic class, it would be impossible for anybody who's TI polar to get 4.0 grade point average. If the class were graded honestly. So The thing is, you overestimate the intellect of everybody else, Grace. Most people find learning things hard. You
Mm,
find enduring other people's ignorance hard.
yeah, and trying to explain to them why they're ignorant while simultaneously not offending their feelings either.
Yeah, trying to explain to them why they're ignorant without offending their feelings and being any polar makes you a very frustrated Grace because you are an underling essentially of somebody who should be your employee, but instead has deemed themselves an expert on your identity because of their BA in psychology and their total lack of logical thinking. So, yeah, I mean, understandably a frustrating situation to be in. I'm glad you can come onto the internet and vent some of these frustrations here with us and talking with famous people. Hopefully, it makes you feel better.
And if I bring up cognitive functions and she still happens to search it up on YouTube, she might stumble on this channel and see this video. Like that's plausible.
It's plausible, but the thing is,
Maybe
you'd be
a
wise not
pause.
to mention cognitive functions simply because if you call it what it is, cognitive functions or typology or something, she'll dismiss it as you indicated earlier, based on her TE heuristic of what you learned in psychology class in college, right? So
Mhm.
instead, just point out that just keep your claims really limited. Just say logic and ideation are different things. I think you've conflated the two. I can demonstrate the difference if you want. And then the ball's in her court. She's probably not going to answer that question. Does she actually want you to demonstrate the difference? Because that's implying she's conceding right off the bat then that she needs to learn something from you or could possibly learn something from you, which of course is always the case in life. But she's not there intellectually, mentally, individually, or whatever. She's not ready to learn from you in that regard. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so wantonly brazen with her flinginess regarding advice.
Sorry to interrupt. Well, not interrupt, but cut this conversation short. But my mom's calling me, and I think I should go.
Cool. Perfect timing. See you later, Grace. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.
What cheese?
Yeah, it's good for you. Helps you grow big and
I'm
strong.
lactose intolerant.
Well,
Okay.
nothing wrong with farting. Okay, so I'm still here with my face, only it's in a different place than it used to be. What? Where is it, Eric? I don't see it at all. Oh, that's because it's nowhere to be seen. But soon it will be able to be seen. Look, here I'll show you Rachel. Well, it's not really Rachel, it's instead a mop, but it's kind of Rachel-esque. It's in the sense that it's over there where Rachel is, so it's kind of near Rachel. Now let me switch to this camera. What? Is that Eric? Yep, it's me. Back in the usual way now. So that was. It's. Sometimes I'm just stunned by the shit that goes on in the world. Like, what? She's telling me the story earlier today. I'm like, your guidance counselor told you what? I mean, what the hell? Oh. What is this? Who? What? Why? You know, it's like, what else can you say about it? It's just so it boggles the mind. Like, this woman actually said these things to you? Ay, ay, ay. Guidance counselor. It's like, okay. What possible good advice could you have for me? Given, not only are you a guidance counselor, which fine, but I mean, it's hardly like, you know, Olympic gold medalist or something, right? But you're a terrible guidance counselor. So why would I come to you for? Why would you even become a guidance counselor if you have no guidance to give that's worth anything? Oh Jesus! Yeah, you're broken. I don't know what to do with you. just go move into a home for special people for the rest of your life.
That is like the advice.
Yeah, you didn't come up with one funny joke this whole time we were talking. You go straight to the home for the retarded people.
That is so scary.
Well, it's like Kimberly, when she was a kid, she was in special ed. They actually put her in special ed with the mentally retarded people. Why? Because I guess, she learned slowly. She was like an SI dom, right? If she didn't want to learn something, she didn't just pick it up. And I guess it was just sort of like her parents didn't care or something. Like the woman was not the brightest woman in the world, but she wasn't retarded. It's like if you've worked in actual special ed as I have, you know that there's a qualitative difference. It is not a spectrum thing, right? You're either retarded or you're not. In contrast to gifted, okay? People who are gifted, that's not a real distinction. That kid who's gifted is just as gifted as this kid who's not gifted, except that kid's got rich parents or a flashy skill. Well, I mean, I did advise her to fight, but, and like for the reason the horse mumbler said, but both horse mumbler and I are projecting any competence on her. She doesn't want to fight because she knows how that verbal battle is going to go,
Oh, you're so handsome. Me too.
It's so hard to see you. Ignore.
It's like such a positive song.
Hey, that's not right. Well, I know Grace well. I've had Grace in my class before. Not actually, but she is not my first Asian ISTP girl. I have her in some kind of class or debate, whatever, Almost all my kids are Chinese kids like her, and I mentioned that because it's relevant in the parenting. Like, their parents expect them to get 4 point whatever, and, she was, I did badly on the SAT with her 4.0 grade point average, and, if anybody can get 4.0 if they just try. I mean, talk about Dunning-Kruger, the good kind, right? There's not really a good kind, but there are two sides to Dunning-Kruger. One is when people who don't know anything about something assume they have more competency than they do. That's the kind we normally talk about. But the other side of it is when people who have massive competency at something assume people who don't have any competency must be more competent than they are, She's demonstrating that when she's saying, well, anybody get a 4.0, they just need to try hard. Well, if you're TISE, yeah, sure. I mean, I couldn't get a 4.0.
No
Not in
way.
a billion years.
Couldn't either.
I mean, I don't know about that type thing. I'm not saying there's a particularly large number of ISTPs in the Chinese population. I'm just saying I've worked with so many students now. I've had plenty of ISTP girls. They're just like her, with the same kind of parents and shit, So I understand her battle. Like I was saying, also, maybe I was saying this off camera, but I was hired by this ISTP mom who the ISTP got perfect score on the ACT, 4.0, etc. Mom was worried he wasn't going to get into Harvard because he had no interview skills. And I couldn't ever teach him to extrovertedly intuit. All I could do was give him packages of my extroverted intuition and hope he remembers them and delivers them in the same way, you know? And she wanted me to train him to, you know, come up with random shit like you do, Eric. Well, you can't. No, woman, it's not possible. Stop asking me to do the impossible. Chinese parents like to ask me to do the impossible. Can you make my third grader the greatest author in history by the end of the quarter? No. You want to talk about something that really pissed me off? These are, I think there's 2 here for you.
Oh, there's 2 left?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You left 4, I did 2, and there's 2 for you.
Oh, thanks. Oh, no, they're done. Okay.
You know, it's like, there was this national tournament that we had, and I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Alabama, it might have been somewhere. And we kicked ass that year. It's like so many kids won trophies, and we had multiple big trophies, multiple, like, you know, top 5s or whatever. And some Chinese parents came up to me the next morning after the tournament was over. I was sitting at my breakfast feeling pretty pimping about the whole thing. And I was just like, damn, that really went well. That tournament really fucking went well. These parents come up to me and start saying, oh, Mr. Strauss, you know, we were watching some of these rounds, and it looked like some of these children, they have better speaking approach than our kids. They better speaker points. They better presentation. I think we need to work on that more. I'm like, can we not have this conversation right now? You know, I can only be so rude to the parents. I can be pretty rude to them, but only so rude, right? Because we just totally killed it, and you're saying how my coaching fell short of somebody else's coaching in this one area in this round that you watched, so I must be doing something wrong as a coach?
I'm gonna walk to the bathroom.
Okay, bye, darling. I love you.
I love you too.
Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese while you're dreaming tonight.
Thank you. Maybe my dream and your dream will merge and we'll both be eating cheese.
You'll both be nibbling from either end of one big piece of cheese, like in that movie with the spaghetti.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes,
picturing.
Yeah. The Lady and the Tramp, is that the movie was?
Lady and the Tramp.
I don't think I've ever actually really seen that movie. They threw babies in cold water pools in Soviet Russia. People's BS is their own. Well, I mean, in this instance, I'm not one to be all like, oh, but think of the children, or something like that, but seriously, it's like this teenage girl is really being told there's something wrong with her at exactly a time in her life when she's most fragile in ego construction and stuff, and is most prone to internalizing limiting beliefs. I just find it really offensive. I think it's really, it's not wicked because I know this woman doesn't intend to do ill. You know, I know she's not willfully trying to hurt this girl, but what she's doing is dangerous. You know, it's like, it's the difference between whether or not Grace has some label on her for the rest of her life, like autistic, or not. If you know, it's like, or the guidance counselor also posited she was not just autistic, but also ADHD. So, okay, well, I might think that's fine if there was any indication that Grace needed to be on speed, except there's zero, right? She's got a 4.0. She's got 4 point, yeah, adjusted. Higher than 4.0 even. So, I mean, it's not okay. You know, it's like, it's easy for me to say, oh, I would just, that bullshit wouldn't garner 1 inch of my territory, you know? It wouldn't conquer 1 inch of my territory. But that's because I know what I know now. You know, it's like people always think, well, if I could go back to school knowing what I know now, well, I do know what I know now. And she doesn't know what she'll know later now. So, you know, it's like, I call bullshit. I'm glad that. Listen, I know how important it was for me when I was subject to unfair ontological attacks by Kimberly to be able to come on the internet and talk to people here in the live stream and have them say, no, you're right, Eric, that what happened there wasn't okay. What you did was not okay. To have that confirmed protected me a great deal from the kind of damage that BPD people normally do to their partners. Because it's very difficult to gaslight me when I'm being heard by a set of people who are evaluating it each independently and objectively. In general, gaslighters try to control the narrative, but it's really hard to control the narrative when you have an active community of people that you talk to regularly. So, I recognize from my own experience that it's important to have a reality checking place that's fair to you. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up. I need to check my email and see what Boba Fett says with preferred time and stuff. And then I'm probably going to watch some cartoons. And yeah. This is some bullshit. Why is it some bullshit? Jeff Shaw. I mean, did you hear any of the... were you here for the part when Grace was here? Did you hear the story of how this all went down? She was telling me a story and I was getting mad. And I said, I'm going to make a video about it. She said, well, why are you excluding me from the video? I said, I didn't know you wanted to make a video about it. I just assumed I was the only one who wanted to make a video about it. But she did join and had her opportunity to explain a little bit what happened and so forth. And I don't think that's bullshit. You know? Do you? And the thing is, I spent a lot of time talking to her off camera before we ever made a video. So... I guess if you're asking whether I'm poorly motivated or something, I would say I spent a lot of off the clock time talking to her before I decided I was going to make a video about it, because I had already talked to her for 2.5 hours or something. She asked me to book a session for debate, and I said, well, let's talk about it first. Because I don't want her to waste her money or something on something that she's not really going to enjoy or whatever. So I'm not sure what the critique is here, Jeff Shaw. I would say that by any measuring stick, that to the extent that there's anything noble about this, it's genuine. It's not ulterior motive or something. I'm genuinely pissed off. It is reasonable to think that, TI polar bullshit would make me genuinely annoyed and make me want to make a video. After all, every time I experience emotions, I want to talk them all out on the internet so that I don't have to carry them around with me. Anyway, I'll Fate M. I appreciate that, and I just, I think that it's very telling about what happens in a world where we don't have down the basic frame of reference of psychology right, and people just impose their frame biases on everybody. Okay. The only thing I saw was, this is some bullshit. I'm not quite sure what he was referring to. Alright, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for being here. Meow, etc., etc. And I love you all. Even you, Jeff Shaw.